My name is Morgan McLaughlin. I'm currently getting my master's in business, and I graduated with my undergrad back in April, so I am 23. Yeah, I guess I can talk a little bit about my story with mental health. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was about 11. But the first time I really was able to explore, everything that's going on in here was after my ADHD diagnosis, but really it wasn't until my senior year of high school when I realized, oh, there's other things to ADHD and mental health than just, are you getting good grades and your meds working? I do have some anxiety. It took a while for me to realize, oh, this isn't normal. You're not supposed to feel like you're about to blow up when you get stressed. That was really funny when I found that out, because my friend was like, Morgan, that's not normal. And I was like, it's not. It's not. And she was like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I've had to do a lot of work on myself because I realized that I was my own biggest critic. I was the biggest bully to myself. I would lay in bed and I would just replay conversations that I had had with people that day, and I would just berate myself for the things that I said, the way that I acted, the things that I did. And so it was a lot of changing that mindset, because that's not a fun way to do, is feeling like you're worthless and constantly bringing yourself down. It's not a fun way to, but it's really hard to break that, because that's all you know. I was working at a job, and I was a little intern for the summer, didn't have a whole lot to do, and so I would just have a lot of downtime, and that's dangerous when you have mental disorders, because your mind just starts to go. And I would be sitting there and I'd be like, if you can't handle a desk job now, you're how are you gonna handle this as an adult? And I would just sit there for hours, and I'd go home from work and I'd just cry every day. And it was horrible. I'd like to say that it's gotten better now, but I do definitely still have some social anxiety, and I get very overwhelmed because, like I said, I have anxiety and I have ADHD. So I get overstimulated very easily, and then my brain just shuts down and I just go quiet. Because if anybody knows me, I'm very chatty and bubbly. I say I spiral because I shut down. So I worked as a PACE leader, which is basically a TA, student mentor, whatever. And it was 2020 to 2021. So it was during COVID, peak COVID, and I had this group of freshmen, and I was really their only tie-in. So I tried to make it as normal of a college experience as I could. I was very open with them about my own mental health, and I always told them, if you need somebody to talk to, I want you to come talk to me, because I get it. It was the end of the semester, and I remember getting a phone call from the head of my program, and she informed me that one of my students had passed away. And we later found out that he had taken his own life. That was really difficult for me, because obviously, it's not as difficult for me as his family, his parents, but I was probably the person that was around him the most, aside from his roommates. There's just so much pressure. And obviously they want you to get a good job and to do your best. And I think that's really important, but I think that there's ways to go about it that don't take as much of a toll on mental health. I felt like I was absolutely worthless, because I wasn't getting the co-ops that they, were touting. I never felt like I was good enough, because I didn't have the right connections, I didn't have the right resume, whatever. That's dangerous. And in talking to his mom, she told me that one of the things that weighed on him very heavily was that he had applied for this one job and he didn't get it, and he felt like that was the end of the world. That is something that I'm sure transcends the business college, but it's very dangerous. There's ways to encourage students to do their best without making them feel as though they'll never measure up. And I think that's something that needs to change at a more institutional level. Treat suicide and mental health, it's gotten a little better, but they treat it as we're not going to talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, then it's not real. But it is very real. There have been statistics that show that because of COVID, mental illness and mental health struggles have gone up exponentially. You can be like, oh, well, we did the presentation. No, there's so many better ways. So what I found is just knowing that you have somebody there does more than any inspirational, motivational PowerPoint that you see in class. I'm an open book, but not everybody is. And so you really don't always know what somebody's going through, and they're just so important to reach out and ask. I always try and ask, and I try and check in and just let people know that they can come to me, because I feel like It might not save everybody, but it might save someone. My advice for someone who's struggling, specifically a student that's struggling with mental health, recognize that you need somebody there. Confide in a friend, confide in a family member that you trust. Like, just tell somebody. And I know that that's so hard for so many people. Like, talking about how you're feeling and admitting that you're struggling is not something that anybody wants to do, but I would say start there. And also find something that you know makes you happy. And it doesn't mean you have to go somewhere. It could be a favorite book, it could be a favorite movie, it could be a favorite song, but something that, no matter how you're feeling, will always make you happy, and then tell somebody.